Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Mark Fleischer, Pittsburgh CLO's executive producer, and you have joined us for Close-Ups.
Hi, I'm Olivia O'Connor. I'm the manager of Newark Development, and we are back for our bi-weekly episode every other Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. We are live on Facebook and YouTube.
So if you're joining us live, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And be sure to say hi in the comments section so we know you're here. And if you have a question for any of today's guests, you can be part of the conversation. So send it to us in the comments section if you want to ask a question of any of our friends from NAMT, or for us. We're happy to answer those questions. And we may hopefully answer it on air.
Yeah, absolutely. And this conversation, like all of our episodes, is being recorded. You can watch it belatedly from our website, our Facebook, our YouTube page. And while you're watching, please do like and share and subscribe to get notified about when we're going live next.
Right. Today, we're having a very special episode that Olivia and I are co-hosting, each of us a different segment. We're going to be joined by leaders from the National Alliance of Musical Theater, or as we call it in the industry, NAMT. A very special organization for all of us that deals with it's a service industry that covers all of the universities and artists and organizations, producers, nonprofit and commercial. And we'll learn a little bit about that. Pittsburgh CLO was actually a founding member of this organization back in the 80s when it came together. And many of us on staff are involved in different ways in this organization, which truly serves us and the industry. I actually am a member of the board of directors now, having served for many times. And Olivia, you're involved as well now. We've dragged you in. Yeah, so
Yes.
You've been working on the new festival, New Works Festival, which you'll be talking about with Sierra. I'm going to talk first with their executive director, Betsy King Militello, and the member services director, Adam Grossworth, for a conversation about the state of the theater industry and NAMT's pivot to an all virtual conference.
Hi, Schwan.
Hey.
So glad you're watching. And then I will be back for a conversation with Sierra Iveson, NAMT's Newark's director. We're going to talk about the festival this year. It's their 32nd annual festival coming up, and it is pivoting to the virtual world as well, which is really exciting because if you're watching from home, you can also join for that festival. And we'll talk with Sierra about how to do that.
Great.
Cool. So I'll see you soon, Mark.
All right, we'll see you. I can't wait to see your interview.
Bye.
All right. So just to give you a little background, my involvement with NAMT began in 2007 when I started at my previous theater as the producing artistic director at the Adirondack Theater Festival. I think I'd probably been on the job about a month or less when I got a call from Adam, who you're going to meet in a moment, who tried to talk me into why my theater company should be part of NAMT. And he was a really good salesman, or I was an easy touch. But anyway, in 2008, I went down and was part of my first festival and conference, and I've been hooked ever since. I have to say it's one of the truly most welcoming organizations. As you'll hear, there are people involved in organizations of all shapes and sizes, from the CLO and Paper Mill Playhouse all the way to little mom and pops, as well as producers of professional theaters. And I think one of the things that I found most amazing was that scalable interaction, as a friend of ours says, that we could learn from each other. And also a big commitment to new musicals, which has been a big part of what we've done. So since that first conference, I've gone to almost every conference and festival. I've been on the Education Resources Committee. I've helped plan conference committees, and I even was on the Festival Selection Committee. And this year, I'm proud to have joined the board of directors. So let us welcome Betsy Militello, who's the executive director, and Adam, member services director. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Thanks for having us.
Good. Well, I'm so excited to have a chat. We've done a lot of discussions here with, sort of our local talent and some people of CLO, but it was really important to me, having been involved with NAMT prior, and then it's also been a very helpful service organization for me, to talk a little about the national field and what's happening, because you guys have really in touch with it. But let's just sort of start with NAMT and what it is. And we call it a service organization, but what does that mean to you and what you guys do for the industry of musical theater?
We think of service as a very active function. As you mentioned, our members run the gamut from very small theaters doing only new work all the way up to huge, well-established institutions that primarily do traditional musicals and everything in between and every hybrid. And it says in our mission that we serve as a catalyst, and it's for the field as a whole. It's for new musical development, production, innovation, and collaboration. And we take those words very seriously and kind of apply that as a yardstick for everything we do. Is how can we help bring the field together so that there's collaboration across it? How can we be a catalyst for keeping the field moving forward so that there's a dynamic development? And a lot of that is in new work, in new musicals, and supporting the writers who do those new works. But it's really much broader than that in terms of sharing best practices, talking about what's going on in the field, trying to look ahead and figuring out what's down the road and how we can respond to it.
That's great. And Adam, you're as member services director, you're responsible, as you said, recruiting me like you did, but you have a real sense of that variety. How would you describe the membership of who all is involved, or sort of is there a typical NAMT member, or?
I mean, not really.
Change?
You did a great job of it already. It really does run the gamut. I mean, they're all professional theaters. That's kind of our one criterion that we really have. But that's within that. There's such a broad range. Back when we were founded in 1985, it was a lot of theaters like Pittsburgh CLO that came together and really said, hey, we're not in competition with each other. There's no reason we can't talk to each other. They had a very informal conference, and out of that grew this now very formal conference that we have, which will be online in a whole new way this year. But that really has driven us, throughout. If you sort of think about what was happening in 1985 in musical theater, it was changing a lot, right? If that's sort of post the height of Sondheim. Cats was there, Phantom was about to be there, right? So like musical theater world was really changing, and these theaters got together and said we should share best practices, we should share musicals, right? We should share new work. We're not going to necessarily be able to get a show that's running on Broadway for what was about to be 20 years. And so we want to share new work. So out of that grew our festival, which Sierra will talk more about. And so it's always been this idea of sharing, and also then out of that, from these big CLOs, other theaters started to do musicals that maybe didn't before. Theaters that had only done plays. Chicago Shakespeare Theater comes to mind. Shakespeare's right there in their name. They do so much more than Shakespeare now. They did a whole Sondheim festival, or multiple years. They ran through the whole Sondheim canon at the same time that they were doing every Shakespeare. A lot of smaller theaters that very specifically want small chamber musicals, like when you were at Adirondack Theater Festival and did Ordinary Days with a cast of 4. Even Pittsburgh CLO in your cabaret space, right? You have 2 very different stages that you need to fill there, so you're looking for different kinds of work. And also what we've seen that I love of different theaters interpreting, taking a traditionally giant musical and doing something small with it, or taking something traditionally really small and blowing it up. And so people are looking for new work that they can do that with, and also reinventing the canon. And so our members, long answer to your question, but our members really, are all over the place in terms of doing nothing but musicals, nothing but giant musicals, smaller musicals, one musical in a bunch of plays. They're really all over it, and I love that. I mean, and right in Pittsburgh, you have so many great theaters that fit all of those descriptions, doing all that kind of work, and then you spread that out nationally, and that's NAMT.
And not just nationally, because we also have members from Scotland and Canada and
we do
Denmark. I mean, it's been quite amazing. And also in the most recently, there's also been a push that's allowed individuals to join and students. That's a relatively new effort, if I remember correctly, right?
It is, yeah. With just an attempt to broaden a little bit, and people want to be a part of this network and participate. We wanted to do that sort of without losing sight of our core service mission, which is to serve theaters. So we're still a professional organization, but kind of widening who we can serve within that a little bit.
Right.
It also allows us, by having associate members who are in very related fields, it broadens the conversation sometimes, which is so much a part of what we're doing, is to try to have a conversation about the significant issues in the field, the opportunities in the field, and to have writers and agents and investors and all kinds of different people as part of that ecosystem.
Right.
Difference to the kinds of conversations we can have.
Right. And what I really love when we have a conference is to get all those people in the same room,
Right.
you know, where we can, if we're talking about, you know, marketing or fundraising, you know, people can get really kind of, I don't want to say stuck, but stuck in their lane is the phrase that's stuck in my head. You know, where, you know, a smaller organization can have a really great sort of grassroots idea that a big organization can think, oh, I could never do that because we're too big, and vice versa, right? A small organization could think, oh, we don't have the money for that, but it's all scalable, right? That giant idea at a smaller size doesn't actually cost that much money, and the small scrappy idea that maybe you never thought of because it's harder to steer the big ship. I'm mixing metaphors all over the place.
Right.
You know, you just need to, you get the idea and you scale it up and it fits. And so we get everybody talking in the same room or the same digital room this year. And these great things happen. You know, and again, it's not competition. Our members are all in different cities and they can freely steal from each other and you know, percolate all these great things together.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing from my very first conference, 2008, when I just remember how friendly it was. I mean, I immediately fell in with a group with Sharon and Dan from Broadway Rose and with Keith down at Red Mountain, and they've all become these colleagues, as well as the ability to go up and talk to someone from Oak Globe when I was at Adirondack or vice versa. And I think that's been one of the most exciting things. I look forward to seeing those people all the time. You know, as a service organization, your staff is what, 6 people, 7,
Yeah.
6? I do remember. But I also think that it's fascinating how engaged the membership is in running and providing what you guys need as an organization, because it's very much a member-run organization, which I think is interesting in the way that those programs usually come out of our members, correct? In terms of when you new initiatives and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there are sort of 2 pieces to that. One is that it's, you know, it's the old truism that the more people are engaged, the more they want to be engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And so by finding committees and opportunities for people to participate, they become more engaged in the organization, and then they want to give us more input. There is absolutely no usefulness for the 6 of us to decide what the membership needs.
Right.
It's that would be bound for failure. Also, we're not really capable of it in 6 people. But to engage the membership and to bring in new members and say, where would you like to be involved, and have people come to us regularly and say, you know, I really enjoyed last year's conference. How can I help? How can I be involved? Is incredibly rewarding and also useful. Part of that, I think, because we hear this fairly often, is people say that it is a friendly environment. And it's that environment that we try to perpetuate, certainly.
Right.
But that also makes it easier for people to be involved. So there's sort of a good circle going on.
Well, yeah, for me, because I found the conferences, and we should talk a little bit about what a normal year would be for you, because I think it'll help people understand when we talk about the pivot. But for me, I so look forward to October and to the spring, because I was in this room where I was with colleagues and I felt safe, and I could make the vulnerable discussion topic of I'm struggling with this, or this is the difficult. We've talked a lot about diversity. We've talked about, you know, the changing of technology and all. And I really think that it's that member. I've not been part of another organization that's had that sort of flow back and forth of members and its strength of its members. That's so really great. Now, I also want to clarify, because, you know, we've talked a lot about kind of the art side, but it also serves the administrative side. And that's sort of where I want to talk about the 2 different conferences, Adam, that we have. Because I think that'll help explain, you know, the different, as Betsy said, the places where you can fit into the organization.
Yeah, I mean, so we do operate year round in general. In the conference world, so our festival happens in the fall in New York, and that same week we do a conference because we don't like to sleep. But it's because it's when our members all come to town, and, you know, so it makes sense to do them all at once. So that conference, we tend to sort of focus on new musical development, because it's attached to the festival, and those are the folks who are coming to New York for that. And that's always in New York, because that's just where it makes sense for the festival to be. But it's sort of the business side of New York. So we spend the festival arting, and then we talk about, you know, how to make that art at the at the conference. We've expanded that a little bit, sort of what other topics, the audience is mostly artistic directors, what else might they want to talk about in those 2 days, but it's really connected to the festival. And then we have a spring conference, which travels, which is now hosted by our members. We used to just do it in hotels, and that's really no fun. So now we ask our generous member theaters to host us, including Pittsburgh CLO, which hosted us a couple of years back.
Yep.
And that's in a different city every year, which is super, super fun for me, especially because I get to plan them, which means I get to go more than once and visit our members and your cities. And just in general, I mean, the best part of my job, I grew up in New York, and my pre-NAMT theater career was in New York. And now I have this ridiculous job where, not for the last 6 months, but again soon, I get to go all over the country and occasionally Canada and see plays, and that's super, super fun, and just to see how much great theater there is all over the country. So, sidebar, I have the best job. So
good. We'd like to hear you say that.
Right?
That's security for us.
Exactly. But yeah, so our members host us, and that's great. And so the spring conference is business focused. We typically alternate between marketing and fundraising, and then every third year we put those marketing and fundraising together. Those two departments really have a lot in common, and it turns out, I was actually surprised to learn this, there's not a lot of conferences, certainly, but there's not a ton of resources out there that covers marketing and fundraising together. And really, if you think about it, if you guys watching this, probably you hear from Pittsburgh CLO and other theaters when they're trying to sell you a ticket or ask you for a donation. It's the marketing and fundraising, and they're trying to communicate with you at the same time. So we put those folks together at one conference every third year. And then in between, we have a series of roundtables where we cover other business topics, sort of in smaller groups, also at our member theaters. We have new works roundtables. We do a series of events for our writers who have been in our festival, and webinars. And of course, now everything is a webinar because everything is online. And we have two granting programs, both of which fund programs at our member theaters. One is the Frank Young Fund for New Musicals, which is exactly what it sounds like, to fund new musicals. And the other is sort of business and administration focused, the Innovation and Exploration Fund, which is a little bit more nebulous, but it's sort of to help our theaters explore and advance in technology, accessibility, sort of bring us your idea, we'll help fund it, and then we'll take what you learn and share it with our membership so that they can also learn from your project. So there's a lot going on both the artistic and the business side.
Yeah. So to go back to the idea of the spring conference, I think, right when this all happened, the shutdown, we were all looking forward to going, where were we going? Chicago.
We were going to Chicago.
We were going to Chicago.
I had hotel, everything booked. Because I think that's what, again, we talk about the personalities, it's really being in the room with all these people that has always been something that's fueled me, whether it's hanging out in Chicago at the Shakespeare Theater or whether it's being in New York for the festival. But obviously we've had this pivot in this world. So you must, as our service organization, you're in touch with a lot of people. What has happened in the shift for you, I think, as a service organization, Betsy, in order to serve this community? And what are you hearing? How are you staying in touch and how are you communicating with our colleagues and our membership?
Bad news was that we had to cancel the conference very late in the game.
Right.
It was, I think the conference was supposed to be March 25th to 27th approximately, and we canceled on March 13th.
Right.
The good news about that was that our members had some NAMT time already on their calendar. And so we had an opportunity to find ways to create that community even when we couldn't be together. So at that point, we did start doing town halls, and the first one, we thought a few people might show up, and our Zoom room exploded because so many people showed up. So we knew there was a hunger for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that what's been interesting in this pivot, in finding lots of different ways to stay in touch with our members, through town halls, through smaller webinars, delivering information, providing forums for conversation, and they've been on everything from how do you apply for your PPP, to really intense conversations and important conversations about racial equity and in between.
Right.
We've gotten to know a lot of our members better.
Yeah.
Who
Sort of the irony of this, isn't it?
Right?
In some ways. Yeah.
Because people, we see our members twice a year, basically. Yes, we go visit them periodically, but they're two big opportunities. And because it involves travel, 2, maybe 3 people come to each event. Well, in this forum, we've been able to meet a lot of people at other levels of the organization who have chosen to participate. And that expands our ability then to serve our membership.
Right.
And what they need. And to your point earlier, now we can say, what do you want to talk about? What other webinars would be of use to you? What town hall groups would you like to see come together? So that's really been our focus until now, when we're going to try to do our fall events anyway.
Right. Right. No, I will say before we move on to the festival and the conference, I do remember that first one. I think we just needed each other in such an interesting way that day, that first town hall, to see those faces, to see, for me, it was so fast. Everything was moving at this, and it was scary. We just didn't know. I'd never experienced things. So to be on that town hall and click through the pages and go, oh, there's Sharon, there's Dan, there's Sharon Fallon, all these friends, and be like, and then hear the similarities or the fears or and like I said, in some ways, I've been more involved with NAMT in the last 6 months in terms of interactions than normally, as you said, it would have been 2 times a year and maybe my conference committees. So it's been kind of an interesting irony of the whole thing.
Right. We did the fall events announcement in a town hall forum.
Yeah.
And we all came off and said, we're going to be back in person, we hope, next year for the events themselves. But we should do this announcement online party every year anyway.
Yep.
So there are things that we're taking away that are useful. I will also say you sort of asked about the shape of the industry, and
right.
It's been a disaster. It's been horrible for everybody. There's no one can produce. Music is hard. Singing is hard. I mean, we all know what the situation is. What's been fascinating for me and uplifting, quite honestly, is once that sort of initial shock went by and everything shut down and we all went through the 87 scenario period,
right,
with the moving target of when things might reopen. Once there was a moment of, okay, maybe we should stop doing that and actually start thinking about what we can do now. And you guys are doing this kind of forum, which connects you to your community. People have been doing outdoor cabarets. People have been doing, the creativity has been pretty amazing. And I think that just speaks to the nature of the people in the industry. It speaks to the nature of our membership. And it says, yeah, this is awful and we want it to end, but nothing is going to shut down this group's creativity and drive to the future. So that's been really important to me, and I think to our membership as well, to hear from each other.
Yeah.
Typically when we did a webinar, they were not super well attended. We record them; people can watch them later. But my expectations for that first town hall were low. It was important, but I figured we'd have 20 people on the call, and that we maxed. And it was also like the first week of everything when we were not all on Zoom all the time.
Right.
And we maxed out our Zoom account with 100 people. The second we opened the room, right? And it was incredibly moving, and also felt really important that people really wanted to be there. And so then we've just kept doing them. So
I also think, like you said, because it's been virtual, like we get the email every week of what's going to happen next week, and I send it off. Like they're doing a Devo thing, or they're doing an educate, and I think we've had other staff members join things that would normally not be there, and I think that's been great. So that sort of leads me now, Adam, to the pivot of the granddaddy of the pivots, that you're now going to do a conference, and this conference, everybody knows, was 2.5 days, meals, keynote speakers, breakout groups. Good parties, I will say. A lot happens in the. I may
gonna miss the parties.
Work in the party. It's important at a conference, if you know. But now you're going to have us all. We're all going to be home, dealing with it. So, what has been your process, Adam, to now take what was that and either create this new thing and move forward? And what can people expect?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I will say, we're very like, it was hard because of when our spring conference was, that we had no choice but to cancel, right? We couldn't pivot,
Right.
except for to do the Zoom town hall. But then some of our colleagues at other service organizations were scheduled for like May, June, July. So I got to attend their online conferences and steal a little. And that was really
We
valuable. And,
decided to do all sharing.
well, yes. And
If
I
you
mean,
steal an
we
idea,
all,
just steal a good one. That's
yeah,
all I
well, and
do.
we all meet. I mean, it's the same we were saying about NAMT. All the meeting planners, we just had a Zoom the other day. We have another one next. I mean, so we're all talking to each other. It's not really stealing.
Yeah.
You know, and what you're doing here, in StreamYard, and like all of these things have been happening since March, right? So we've had some time, which is great. We knew as we were doing these weekly Zoom things that the conference needed to be something else. Partly to set it apart and make it special, but also because, as you say, some of what's so important about the conference, it's not just the content, right? We could put on a panel. We can do that anywhere. But it's everyone being in the room together and talking to each other and seeing each other is so important. And you sort of get that on Zoom, and you can sort of do that by typing on Slack or some other text-based thing, but it's really not the same. And it cannot be the same in an online space. But we really went hunting for a thing that would replicate that would be easy to use, and would feel different from what we're doing every week on Zoom, and would feel different from sitting and watching YouTube or Stars in the House or whatever. So we found one. We found a product we like. We'll see how it goes, but it is really meant to kind of recreate that zone where people will log in. It should be pretty easy, and they will immediately get to interact with each other, either by typing or like we're doing now in a video call, but they can sort of click a button and say hi to each other without me needing to moderate it like I would in a Zoom call. And then the content is the content. Like you'll talk to Sierra, she has a much harder job. I'll put together a panel and they'll all be on camera and they'll talk like they would normally talk. But it's sort of what happens around the content that was really important to us to connect people the way we would in the room. I am really going to miss those cocktail parties. We will try to create the social element, and we can do it on camera. There can be that interactivity. We're talking about doing like a trivia game, using some interactive stuff on the screen. We will certainly send out some recipes and try to create a communal experience where we're all at least maybe eating and drinking the same thing. And we know it can't be exactly the same, but we're gonna do our best to make it feel special and to connect people in this different way.
So just so if anyone's interested in listening, what are sort of some of the topics I know I'm on the committee, so sorry.
You tell me, Mark.
What are the topics we're doing, Adam?
We wanted
next week.
Yeah, no, we wanted to keep it with the caveat that we're doing this in mid-November, and who knows what the state of the world will be. But we wanted to keep it sort of like what we normally do, focused on new musical development, with a sort of with a forward-facing look. What is the future going to look like? Again, because we're doing these weekly calls, right? And we're talking about COVID. We're talking about the state of equity and diversity and inclusion in musical theater, and we're going to do that for sure. We would have done that anyway, even if we were live. But we want to kind of look ahead, look at what 2021 might look like. What stories do we want to tell? How are we going to develop those stories? And why are we telling those stories? And also, what lessons are we learning now, as Betsy said, that we want to keep, right? What good is coming out of this time? How are we connecting with our audiences, in new ways that are good, that we don't want to just let go of even when we're back together live. I think we want to kind of focus on the positive. And there is frankly a practical level of like, I don't know exactly where we're going to be in either the state of the pandemic or of our politics in mid-November. So we want to kind of look a little bit futuristically past that. The other nice thing about being online is we can do stuff on the fly. When we're in real life, we are limited to a certain number of breakout rooms, and we're a little bit stuck. And it's like we can talk about anything. I can add a room to our virtual space, and so if something comes up, we can create that space for it. We're also hoping we'll actually have more people than we normally have because there is no travel. We can make it really accessible. And as we've been doing on Zoom, we're hoping that folks who don't normally attend will be able to attend this year. So
speaking of people attending, who is able to attend? Do you need to be a member of NAMT? Here's your sales pitch. Plug the conference.
Yes, the conference is still members only, with some exceptions. We will make exceptions if you are interested in becoming a member. If you are a guest of a member, so if you're in go with Pittsburgh CLO, talk to Mark. We can make that happen. But the conference, it's important for us because it is a business conference, and we wanted to really keep that members only or sort of member adjacent. So if you're watching now and you work for a theater and you're thinking that sounds really cool, I'd like to learn more, we can absolutely get you into the conference. The festival is going to be open in new ways that Sierra will talk about. But yeah, conference is kind of a member thing still.
Yeah, it's members and as you said, member adjacent. Our sponsors who tend to be in the industry as well for a large degree, who want to be in the room with us and have actually continued to be in the room with us as town halls. It's been really wonderful to see some of our good friends really staying part of the family through all of this.
And staff, I know sometimes board members have come from some organizations.
Yeah.
Board members are welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome and encouraged. Those are some of our best conversations, or when we get some staff and some board different perspectives in a conversation.
Great. And so registration's open now. I know that.
Yep.
I will do
NAMT.org/conference.
on my list to get our people there. But I think it's great. So I really appreciate you guys coming out. Is there anything else you guys want to add or plug, or, I think it's thrilling. I mean, it means a lot for me. I'm very proud to be a part of this organization and not just a hanger on, but to actually have the chance to really work. Oh, we have it as an actor. This is
great.
so
Thank
interesting to hear this side of the biz.
Thank you, Craig.
Yes.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
I'll just say, I just talked to Mile a Minute, and I think Betsy and I are both really passionate about NAMT. I'm really proud of our website. So if any of this was interesting to you at all, I would send you to our website. There's a whole history of the organization. There's some great video there that you can look at, including some of our past concerts. You can check out some past festival shows there. So I would just send you to NAMT.org if you want to learn more.
And all the information about the conference and the festival is easily accessible there as well.
Yes.
Since you pulled it, I said to pull up, there's a photo that Adam pulled that he really likes of me laughing in a crowd.
It's true.
I don't know.
I think that's your first year. That's, I think, 2008.
No, I
was there for that. I want to say
12. It's 12.
But you used to use this in marketing, so I really appreciated that. And then we also have a photo you dug up of Van Kaplan, our CEO. He's going to be really mad at me for this one. But
I wish Van were here because we all want to know what this is before any of our time, and I want to know what's happening in this photo. This is a conference from, was it 98?
97, 98, I think you said.
97, 98, and I have no idea what the context is, so please, somebody ask Van and find out, or just like blow it up really big and put it in the office for when you're back in the office.
That must be an old one because I've not seen very few suits and ties at conferences.
That's what I was thinking. That's not a conference garb.
Even
Michael was like the last one from Dallas. Like he would always wear a suit. Michael Jenkins.
Right.
But
yeah, Adam will sometimes put on a tie when he's hosting. But that's about it.
Then it comes off quickly. But no, look, thank you guys for all you're doing. I mean, it really has meant a lot for me to have somewhere to go, to hang out with colleagues, and for you guys to coordinate that has meant a lot in this, and to have these sort of specialized things, because the world has changed during this. I mean, conversations have come up we weren't expecting, probably because of the fact that we've been shut down for a bit. And I know it can't be easy for you to hear the stories you're probably hearing every week and every day from a lot of our people. So thank you for being there as an anchor for us. And I'm thrilled to have had you on the show. And I will be at that digital conference. I do wish it was at the Glass House Tavern and all those sort of things, but we'll be back together at some point. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
All right. See you soon. Oh, hey, Olivia, how are you?
I'm back.
So thanks. No, thanks. That was great. They're two very special people, and you're about to have a great conversation. We're going to turn things over to Olivia now for a conversation with NAMT's new works director, Sierra Iverson, excuse me. And this year, the festival, which is they'll talk in more detail, received over 300 new musical submissions. Did you know that many new musicals are written at any given time? So 300 submissions for its annual festival. Sierra both leads the selection process and is the festival's producer, so she's been given a bit of a curveball this year as well.
Yeah, it is a huge job. And in addition to her festival work, Sierra also works on all of those amazing programs that Adam mentioned that relate to NAMT's New Works programming. So their writers' roundtables, their New Work summits, their amazing granting program. She's even a podcast host these days on their Muse podcast, which is really wonderful. Prior to her time at NAMT, Sierra was at the Village Theater in Washington State, which is a NAMT member organization and a fantastic incubator of new musicals in their own right. Really excited to chat with Sierra today, and we're both going to say hi, and then we'll chat.
So I want to at least say hello since it's been a while.
Hi, Sierra.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi.
how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Well, thanks for coming on. I'm really excited to learn more about the festival that I'll be going to virtually. So I'll leave it to you a good hand. So good to see you. I'll see you at the end.
Thanks so much for having me. Nice to see you.
Hi, Sierra.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
We're so happy to have you. So I'm just going to dive right in because there's so much to talk about this year. So first of all, as I mentioned at the top of the show, this is NAMT's 32nd annual Festival of New Musicals.
Yep.
Sierra's been with the organization since 2016. But Sierra, I will ask you to play historian for us a little bit today and tell us about the festival's history and about its goals for writing teams.
Absolutely. So the festival is a sort of really remarkable 32-year history, about to be 32-year history, where new musicals are shared for an audience of producers. And it's a very unique event because we build it and have always built it to be a very highly saturated moment for producers and writers to interact and hopefully be a catalyst for both the show having an extended life, but also for partnerships between writers and theaters, between theaters and theaters, commercial producers, really just a place where people can come and find new work that their colleagues have been excited about. We'll talk about the selection process a little bit. We have a lot of pride in the festival being a place for shows to find their right next step. So I think a common misconception is that the best shows are on Broadway, and there are beautiful, amazing shows on Broadway. There are also awesome shows that aren't Broadway shows. So of our, we are fortunate to have a lot of Broadway successes in the festival history. The Drowsy Chaperone, Thoroughly Modern Millie, most recently Come From Away. We also have a lot of staples of musical theater that sort of go way back in our history. Children of Eden, Honk, Bubbly Black Girl, Sheds Her Chameleon Skin. More recently, if you've seen Gun and Powder down at Signature, which was one of the last shows I saw before everything shut down. Lempicka, which is had a production that was going to happen at La Jolla Playhouse, eventually will happen with Rachel Chavkin. Interstate is a great show that was at Mixed Blood, also right when the pandemic hit. So we have a sort of amazing roster of new musicals that have found homes on their way out of the festival.
That is such a great list of shows. And if you're watching at home and you don't recognize these titles, especially those shows that have had recent regional premieres, I so encourage you to go look them up. Gun and Powder was also one of the last shows that I saw before things shut down. I know, and it's so
I bought
fantastic.
A shirt. I have my Gun and Powder shirt I wear.
Nice. I should have gotten merch. I didn't get any merch, but it's such a great show. Thank you for that. Thank you for giving us that kind of context for the festival. And you touched on the selection process. And I really want to ask about this because it is an insane feat of logistics. Like Mark said, over 300 shows, I think close to 350 this year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 349. Yeah.
349. Oh my God. Yeah. So how do you winnow that down to the 8 shows that people are going to see in the festival this year?
Absolutely. I will say it's a careful, always evolving process, because the biggest privilege of my job is seeing those 349 musicals. I mean, it is astonishing how much time it takes to write one. And so getting the chance to sort of absorb these piles of scripts, it leaves me with such awe for the creative mind and the creative process. And so the first thing I'll say is we handle it very carefully. We want to give everyone attention and be really fair. So we do a 3-round process where industry guests are invited to read the musicals. We do a screening round where all 349 shows are read. 20 pages are read by 4 different readers. And from there, we do a cut to sort of our core committee. So we rope in about 17 industry colleagues to do a lot of reading with us. And Olivia, you joined us with that this year, so you can talk about it. And we do 2 rounds there. We do a round where about 90 musicals get read in full by 4 people. We meet as a group. We have the most interesting day debating these musicals. And we walk away with 21. Those 21 are then read by the full committee, and we sit down again and have a gut-wrenching day because at that stage everyone is so magnificent, and we sort out what 8 we're going to share at the festival.
Yeah, that is I can't do the math in my head of how much actual reading that is, but it is just a lot. And yeah, I was on the festival committee this year, which is a huge honor, and in the screening round too. So it was exciting to get to read 20 pages of some shows and get that little hint of them, and then get to read them in full at the end of the process. And I want to ask you, because you're a producer, you're a new work developer, you're a dramaturg in your own right, you have an artistic point of view, and yet in this process, you are charging and empowering the festival committee to program, to make those decisions. So yep. You are the facilitator for the process. You are a champion of all of the shows, but you're also a diplomat, and you don't put your finger on the scale. So I want to ask you, is that challenging to have your heart in some shows, or do you have your heart everywhere? What's that like for you?
Totally. I think it's challenging. This year will be my 5th festival, and I think it gets more challenging as the years go on to be very good at scrubbing my opinion out of anything I do. The huge blessing in it is I can just really love everyone for where they're at. I don't actually have to make the choice, and so I can just be rooting sort of everybody on. There are always heartbreaks for me. And one thing a lot of writers who've come through our process know is that it's not usually your first submission that you get into the festival. It might be your 4th, and some of that is that, these shows will come back and someone will think, oh my gosh, I read that 2 years ago and I loved it. They've made such great changes. Can't wait. Right. And that will be the thing that bumps them into the festival. So for me, it's more about the heartbreak, right? Since I know who's written them, and I maybe know where they've been and what they've been up to. So those are the things I have to really watch and stay very, very, very neutral on. And Betsy knows, but Betsy, who you just spoke with, we're in the room together. And if there's ever anything that I'm maybe concerned I might not be neutral on, I loop her in, so that there's always sort of this check. Not that really happens, but it's very important to us that we maintain the integrity of the process and just keep it zipped.
Yeah. Yeah, and you do it so well, I can attest. Also, I had your furry friend behind you.
She always knows and tries to hop on.
I like it. She wants to be in frame. I can tell. Yeah. She's poking your ears in there. So having been in the screening round, having been in that selection process this year, I can see that there's so much innovation coming through NAMT stores in terms of style and form and content. And as someone who, like you said, engages with all of those 349 submissions, and then once the festival is programmed, you actually work in a really hands-on way with the writing teams. How do you, over the past 5 festivals or longer, how do you see musical theater changing, or even what we think of as being musical theater changing?
Totally. It's so interesting because I think the idea of what musical theater is continues to expand, right? Mm-hmm. A show that did really well in our process a few years ago technically describes itself as a play with music. And we said, you've got songs that move plot. You are a musical. We're claiming you. You know, and then we also every year or every couple of years have really interesting discussions about where the line is between opera and musical. And what I would say is, as artists innovate, they blur those lines, right? And then it sort of asks us as an industry to respond. What is musical theater? And for me, it's if you use music to further plot, I'm counting you. I'm keeping it. I want to bring you over to our side. And so yeah, I think just the edges of the form are starting to change, right? And, the hip hop musicals really like gained in popularity, and we're seeing a lot more of those come in. I think we're seeing a lot of inspiration of fully sung through, closer to opera musicals coming in. And it's all really exciting. I think we got smaller for a while, and now we're kind of getting bigger again in terms of what people are writing and the scope in which they're thinking.
Yeah.
So that's abstract, but that's what I would say.
No, I love it. I love the broadness of that categorization, because that's really all you need. If you're moving the story forward and there's music, great. So I do want to give people some context about what the festival looks like if they haven't been there before. As Adam and Betsy and Mark kind of touched on what the conference looks like in New York, the festival typically takes place at New World Stages over the course of 2 days. There are so many people, there's so much excitement. There are 8 shows. They each do a 45-minute cut, which is very carefully curated with Sierra's help. And they each perform twice, and they also perform simultaneously. So there are 2 performances happening at once. You involve up to 10 cast members, up to 11 cast members?
Up to 10 cast, yeah.
Up to 10 cast, 3 musicians. It's like an insane number of people and just wildly complicated and impressive. And every year I'm shocked that things start on time and are so beautifully done. And now all that is becoming virtual. Yeah. So what does that mean? What are you doing? Like, what is happening on your side, and what should audiences expect to see in November?
Sure. Yeah, it's been such an interesting year because we've sort of come at this from 2 sides. One is, how do we live our mission in this digital setting? And we don't want to do it one-to-one. We're not going to recreate the 45-minute cut. But how can we make sure that it's a celebration of the musical theater form that engages producers and gets these shows into a next step? And next steps even look differently this year, right? A lot of theaters aren't at a place that they're programming. Some are starting to do more digitally. Musicals are really, really, really hard digitally, in particular. So just really trying to think about what it means to do this event and what we wanted to achieve, all while the industry is changing by the minute. Right. The festival works. The in-person festival is a machine. It's been a carefully built machine. My job is to not break the machine. I know what steps I have to do. This festival, we're building every policy from the ground up, and we're learning as we go, and then it's multiplied times 8 as we learn those lessons. So that's what it's like. What you're really going to get is a 2-day, 90-minute look at 8 new musicals. So each show is going to have 15 to 20 minutes of digital programming of whatever that looks like to them. And we've got directors just thinking about really exciting things about what it is to present a digital musical around some of these subject matters in this moment in time. So we'll do 2, an intermission, 2, and end the night, or it'll be more afternoon to accommodate different time zones, with some events around it, like you might be at the festival. So at the festival, it's very important that you get FaceTime with the writers and that you get another personality and you can really have these conversations. So we'll have the stream, which will be happening on Broadway On Demand. And then we'll have the supplemental events that'll feel a little bit like our conference. And then otherwise, everyone's just got the same thing. They'll show you 3 songs with awesome casts and awesome directors, and hopefully we'll get to see them out in the world.
I'm so excited. And I want to share The link that you can go to check out NAMT's website and actually see what all of this amazing programming is. If you go to the link on your screen, you can see those 8 festival shows, all the amazing genres and forms and styles that are being brought to life. You can read about their creative teams. It's going to be so much fun. And Sierra, we touched on this a little bit. We kind of teased that you can watch this if you're watching us at home right now. So how can audiences get access to the festival?
Yes, this is something that is so thrilling about this year, because in a traditional year, we have about 800 industry folks at New World Stages, and we just don't have any more seats. But this digital world lets us share the festival with musical theater fans, and we're thrilled about that. So though it will be donation based to NAMT and to help us supporting our New Works programs, and those will be available through Broadway on Demand when we get a little bit closer to the event. But if you go on our website, you'll get the information, and we'll make sure you know when the link is ready.
Great, awesome. Well, Sierra, you've been so kind to kind of share the festival with us, but I also want to ask a little bit about you and your life, because you joined us. You signed into StreamYard at 5:15 today, snuck in right after class, because in addition to all of your work at NAMT, which is like 5 jobs in and of itself, you're also getting a master's degree right now at FIT. I'm gonna make sure I get it right. You're getting a master's in exhibition and experience design, which is such a great. I love that that's what you're studying, because you are into virtual frontiers this fall, and you're in the virtual frontier of the arts world, you're in the virtual frontier of the education world. What has your fall been like, and are you spending any time not on screens? What's how are you?
It's a lot of screens, but I walk, I get out for walks, I do a little power lap around my block, but it's great. You know, it's a really interesting time for both theater and education, because we're all developing new digital social norms.
Mm-hmm.
And that interests me so much. You know, one of the things we're thinking about with the festival, right, is like, what's our new social pact? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you used to sit in an audience and watch something, and you know, might only get up in case of emergency. How do we keep you engaged now? And the same thing goes for school, right? As a professor, you know, shout out to professors and teachers everywhere, because goodness gracious, you know, and it's funny because, for example, and I wind up answering my teachers often with like this, like I would never answer a professor this way in a Zoom, you know, but sure enough, right, in the same way, when we're in an audience together or we're on Zoom together, people will do one thing, and then sure enough, everyone is going like this or applauding or whatever. So I like playing with what it is to be in audience on Zoom now.
Well, and you're also passionate about virtual reality, I know. So as we're all inhabiting more of a digital space than maybe we ever thought we would be over the past 6 going on 7 months, has that changed at all what you think about in terms of possibilities for VR, where that industry might be going, and how it might connect to the theater industry, I guess?
Absolutely. You know, it's so interesting because, you know, I think a lot of things that people assumed about the virtual reality or augmented reality world has really shifted right now. You know, I was listening to someone from Schubert say something like, and what we would give if we hadn't taken a 360 capture of To Kill a Mockingbird before all this, right? And so I think we will start to see more mainstream approaches, you know, as audiences. I think a lot of folks probably could imagine not all audiences coming back right away, right? And so what digital offerings look like, and I think virtual reality offers some, I think augmented reality offers a lot. I'm really into augmented audio and the possibilities for theaters in that. Can
I ask you what that means?
Yeah.
What is augmented audio?
So it's audio that's tied to physical space. So you can, right now, I think the New York Philharmonic has an experience in Central Park where you put in your Bluetooth headphones and you start the app. And as you move through Central Park, they've curated what music you are hearing.
Oh, wow.
And to me, it's an awesome response to COVID for music-based entertainment, because it's, you know, everybody's got headphones. and the theater doesn't have to worry about proximity and sanitation, all those things, and you can shape a music-based experience rooted in sound and in physical space. So that's one possibility that really excites me, and it's starting to crop up. There's a few shows in New York right now you can go to that are augmented audio. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, it's an exciting, I said frontier already, but like truly, it feels like we are at the frontier of some new and exciting things. And I'm really excited by how much access there's going to be to this festival, because these shows are magic. They really are. I mean, having been to two previous festivals, I'm just so excited to get to watch this and get to watch it, in pants with a drawstring. So like, that's also exciting. I mean, we have to take our like happiness where we can get it. So
I know I'm not gonna have my big headset this year. If you ever saw me at the festival in real life, I've got a headset, I've got a clipboard, I'm probably moving too fast. This year, it's gonna be very weird to sit down and watch it.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait. Thank you so much, Sierra, for joining us, for sharing. And folks, please make sure you check out NAMT's website for more information about the conference and the festival. We are going to let Sierra go and bring Mark back on. Sierra, thank you so much.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. This was a pleasure to get to catch up with our NAMT colleagues. And I want to bring Mark back on to say his thanks as well, and also to share an update on our challenge grant, which closed out yesterday. Hi, Mark.
Good. Thank you, Olivia. And what a great conversation. I have to say, every time, it's just great what that group does. That 6-member staff and people. And one of the reasons we wanted to do this show, as Olivia talked about it, was that we often get our own. It's us, it's CLO, it's Pittsburgh, but to forget that the same challenges, the same discussions are happening across the nation, and NAMT sort of bridges that for us together. I know you've taken part in some of those as well. So I think it's been very interesting. I loved hearing your interview with Sierra. So as Olivia said, the challenge grant, which I talked about last episode, has done really well. And I'm proud to announce and also thank everyone. I was really touched by the donations that have come in from former interns and audience members of all sizes that really, for us, expressed a belief in the CLO and what we do. I am proud. As you know, we were trying to get to $100,000, and I'm happy to announce we went way past that. We raised $140,740. It's quite amazing. My numbers got there. $140,740. It's really great, and it's going to be a lot for us as we move forward with this effort to end the year in the midst of all these challenges. And I know that every one of you are facing challenges, so again, it means even more that you did that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just echoing that, we're so appreciative and grateful for your support. I also want to say all of our usual thank yous for making this show happen. Thank you so much to Becca and Sid in our control room, aka their living rooms, for making this happen. And we'll say hi, Becca. Hi, Sid. Are you out there in the ether? Hi. Thank you. Thank you so much to Steph for our graphics, and thank you, of course, to Adam Overit for our theme music.
And speaking of Adam Overit, we have a throwback Thursday today to a very special show, the Double Threat Trio. We picked this because it's part of our Spark Festival, and NAMT, as I think Betsy alluded, and Adam, that we actually hosted a NAMT Spring Conference during Spark, and Double Threat Trio was part of that. The Double Threat Trio, as I said, was developed there. We did additional readings, and then it was given its world premiere in the Greer Cabaret as part of the Cara Cabaret series in February of 2019. It had a book, lyric, and music by Adam Overt, a multi-talented man. And it starred Drew Lee Williams, Jeremy Rodriguez, J. Alex Noble, and Michelle Duffy. It was directed by Scott Weinstein and choreography by Mara Newberry-Greer, set design by Tony Ferreri, lights by Keith Truax, and costumes by Anthony James Sirk. It was a very funny musical, and who knew that Greek tragedy could elicit so many laughs. So we're going to show you a little bit of this from that show. Hopefully your memories of it are positive as they are with us. Until we meet again, I'm Mark Fleischer with Olivia O'Connor, and we both hope that during these challenging times, you're able to be close up with someone you love. Have a good night.
Take a chorus line, add a dash of Monty Python, and you get the Double Threat Trio, Pittsburgh CLO's new musical comedy. Three hopefuls will do anything to get their shot at stardom. Is this their big break or a big disaster? Either way, you'll laugh your ass off at the Double Threat Trio.